Hi everyone. Thank you for watching me. My name is Marcilio. I am a co-founder and chief of growth from Sensedia. I'm excited to be here to explain and to discuss with a very specialized guy in about adaptive governance. Sensedia, it's a specialized company from connectivity and API management platform. And now we will just start to explore this world from API governance. And for today, we are bringing here the concept and some discussions about adaptive governance. So I would love to introduce you guys from Randy Heffner.
Hey.
Hi, Randy.
Hey, Marcilio.
Please introduce yourself.
Great. So, a key question to start with is, why is governance so important in API strategies? And a long time ago, I wrote a paper about digital business architecture, and we've long since gotten past the point where you can think of the business as something we go and figure out how we want to do business. And then later on, we'll figure out how to build some software to support it. It really is one thing, and you can't change your business without changing your software. And that means that APIs, as the means of packaging your major business capabilities and functionality, and basically what you do as a business, become a strategic part of a digital transformation strategy, because the software is not something separate from your business. Basically, the software is your business. And you can't change the business without changing the software. The software needs to be basically a mirror of the business design. And a favorite example that I have is submitting orders. That's something most businesses do, is customers will submit orders. And what you need is a single entry point, mostly a single entry point for how to submit orders. And that's your submit order API. So in other words, APIs are not some technical asset down below that is somehow used as you do business. It is the business. And that means that the design of your major business APIs, not all APIs, but your major business APIs, needs to be business first, domain driven. It needs to represent how you do business. And this is a different attitude, a different culture from the traditional battle, if you will, between developers and architects and developer autonomy. Yes, developers need to operate with agile power and speed and capability, but they can't just go off and design whatever they want for their own little system, because all the systems have to work together, again, particularly the business API layer, to be the business. So as you look at the industry conversation about APIs, it often is very technical. It's about technical REST API theory, and back to the old Roy Fielding paper, and we're talking, academic kind of. That's not where APIs deliver the greatest strategic value for digital transformation. It's by making your business available. It's not about developer slamming code and developer power and all that. It's not the central thing. I mean, because what we really need is to build accelerated, sustainable innovation for transformation. And that means we have to make sure that teams are delivering APIs, the key, most important APIs, the best way, the right way. And that makes governance critical for the enterprise to thrive over the long haul.
Yes, perfect. But all the APIs sounds like all APIs are created equal. I mean, do all APIs need the same governance models or mechanisms? How do you see companies governing these APIs?
Yeah, the APIs are different. Not all APIs are created equal. They have very different characteristics depending upon where they are in the layer of your architecture, where they sit from a distributed systems point of view, the sensitivity of the data that they're dealing with, the business value that is flowing through the APIs, privacy impacts, and business context, technical context, data ownership, all these different kinds of characteristics factor into how important an API. I was emphasizing business APIs in the way that they embody business data, business transactions, and how they become the business. But mobile apps might also use APIs and have very technical, low-level APIs embedded in the user experience to retrieve a list of data values or something like that. And and those can vary in importance, but by and large, those are less important and require less governance than your major business APIs. Or I might have APIs that are dealing with very sensitive data like personal identifiers, personal health information, financial information, and those by the data values and the sensitivity of the data they're handling, they become more important and in more need of governance. So you may have some APIs, that basically teams can have complete freedom and developer power and build them however they want because they're just within their own team. But when you've got APIs that are unlocking core data and systems and transactions and business value and addressing sensitivity, these need to be governed more carefully so that you are building the sustainable innovation that we need as enterprises for digital transformation. And so that's where the notion of adaptive governance comes in. Adaptive meaning we set up the processes, set up the major flows, but we can change how the rules operate, which rules are applied to which APIs based on characteristics of the APIs. This one's a business API. This one's a small technical utility. This one is a security API for authenticating users or authorizing their access to certain systems. That needs more governance. Or we might have particular context. Maybe when an API is delivered to a government entity, it has additional security policies or additional access policies versus when it's delivered to a commercial entity. So adaptive governance can apply at design time and can apply differently to different business domains. Maybe human resources as a domain must be more secure than product catalog, for example. So each one of these requires a different level of governance, or potentially where we're accessing legacy systems and unlocking legacy, we have to be careful of not overloading the legacy environment and an old mainframe or old distributed Unix server or something. And so we need to be more careful about how the APIs are used and designed for accessing those. So maybe for technical reasons, we do more governance of the patterns that are used to implement those. So a variety of different kinds of governance and levels of governance may apply based on the attributes and context and usage scenarios for APIs. And that's why it's very important to have an API taxonomy, different types of APIs, and API portfolios, different domains of APIs, as part of your overall API governance strategy. So, Marcilio, I'm wondering though, you said Sensedia, does API management and the like. Well, surely your customers have come upon these issues. What are your customers doing for adaptive governance?
Yes, I totally agree with your vision about the different problems to solve using the governance approach. We have faced different kind of customers looking for governance, but with different kind of problems, looking for different flavors. Like for open APIs, they need to be more safe about open data. For internal APIs, they're looking for impact analysis to using for different teams. Yes, I selected a couple of stories to present to you here about maybe 3 stories from our customers. Our vision from adaptive governance is we need to use different flavors or layers from focusing different problems to solve using the governance approach. Yeah, we need to look for keep the platform running, the ecosystems working well, to manage the complexity from architecture, to improve the security and compliance patterns, and to understand or to align with value segregated for different the APIs for different business. But to be more pragmatic, we bring 3 stories here for different customers that have used this approach for adaptive governance in different problems to solve different problems. Yeah. The first is Elo. Elo it's a major credit card brand. They have more 1,140 million cards issued. They have now around 120 APIs, and they are looking for resolve the problem from security and patterns for open APIs. They are positioning themselves as a platform from open payment. So the problem for governance here is how can I resolve or assure that I'm safe with the APIs that I'm exposing the data. So they are using the concept from adaptive governance to focus in patterns. For every API should use very specialized patterns. So they deployed different rules and policy enforcements. And now they decreased the amount of attempt attacks that they received through the APIs. So this problem, it's about using adaptive governance to adapt from focusing security and compliance. The second story is not about security or open APIs. It's about to focus in manage the complexity and keep it running. So Sotrack, it's one of the largest Caterpillar dealers in the world. A very complex architecture, and they are using the concept and the platform from adaptive governance, focusing in map the dependency between APIs and the backend. The point here is to run the impact analysis. It's not about patterns or exposing APIs. They adapt the governance process to run the impact analysis. And the third one, it's about a big insurance company. SulAmérica is a major insurance company from Latin America. They have 7 million customers, a lot of digital channels, more than 100 APIs, 450 developers using these APIs. And for this concept from adaptive governance, they use the platform and this approach to focus, to organize the squads to different kind of access for different kind of APIs. It's not about impact analysis. It's not about patterns. It's about to segregate different squads and business lines from different APIs. It's a kind of modernize the process for governance. So they are using the adaptive governance to segregate squads and give them to autonomy and our responsibility to manage and change the evolution from APIs. So different stories, different focus, the same approach, the concept from adaptive governance. And an interesting and last point about these different stories, We have different verticals using these concepts. Some companies from banking, some companies from health, from retail, from energy. They are using the concept from adaptive governance to solve different or focus different questions using this concept for adaptive governance. Though there is not solution that fits all. It's important to adapt the governance process to a very specialized problem. So this is the point that we are using and facing for this project.
Yeah, and that kind of thing that SulAmerica is doing of dividing into portfolios for different squads and teams and domains is that kind of thing has been an important governance practice for APIs for a long, long time, but not enough organizations have caught on to it that they need to divide up their portfolios and manage not just a flat catalog of all these different APIs, but by portfolios and groups that may be treated differently. So that's good. That's good story. Important.
Yeah. Randy, we have watched a lot of new initiatives from Open, like Open Everything, Open Banking, Open Insurance, Open Health. We are enthusiastic with the Open wave from Open Data. It's relevant to have the ecosystem positioning and look for governance. We are looking for some executive guys talking about APIs. As you talk, it's not about technical subject; it's more business subject. How do you design API for business?
Yeah, it's always interesting, and I hear people talk about well, we need to get our business people to design business APIs or design APIs. Period. It's like no, they don't. That's not what they designed. Back when I was at Forrester, I wrote a paper called "Don't Talk to Me About APIs!" Exclamation point. Because so often the technical people will go to the business people and say APIs, and business people don't necessarily even know what that means, and don't know what the technical concept is, because that's not what they design. That's not what they're interested in. They design value delivery models and business models and approaches to manage risk, business relationships. And that's where the notion of business first design with APIs can connect how we're designing the business with how we design APIs. Because you don't go to a business person and say, design an API. You say, so how do we do order submission and order initiation around here, and get them to describe that? That becomes the design of your submit order API. And so along the way, maybe business people eventually learn to say API, but don't force them into that model. Talk to them about digital services or B2B connections or communities of mobile app developers that are going to bring our capabilities along inside their mobile apps. And uh, and there's this funny thing that happens sometimes. Business people will start to say API, and they may not even know technically what that's all about, but they begin to associate this notion with, okay, things get better and more open and faster responses when those techie people are talking about APIs. And here they get the concept without necessarily having to know the technical details. Some business people will be technical and they'll get the technical details, and that's all good. The other thing about it is I've seen cases where a company might be saying we want to do this business thing, and the response to it is clearly API based to the technical people, and they just build it that way. They don't go and say, well, we got to have an API strategy, and this. They just go build it the right way, and eventually the conversation bubbles up to business people about APIs, and this was done a different way. And at some point, there's suddenly this switch, and business people start saying, this new thing that I'm asking for, can I have it with an API? Because they know the value. And that's where the real point is. So get business people to design business not APIs. You make the conversation and make your design patterns, again, focusing critically on your business APIs. You be the ones to make that the business design conversation the same as the technology API design conversation.
Perfect. Yeah, but let's think about the guys that are on charge from SPI strategy. How do you see the empowerment of team and people on this governance process? Yeah.
Yeah,
Just sorry. And
yeah,
what's
yeah,
the role for a API product owner on this process?
yeah. I mean, empowerment, as we talk about developers, often gets wrapped up in this notion of technical project empowerment, as though developers are building their own little thing that we could just let them deliver it, and once it's delivered, it'll all be fine. As if every development team was in its own isolated world, and empowerment often means just let them build it however they want to. And uh, there's a famous story about Amazon doing that, and a Jeff Bezos memo, and things like that. But we see somehow how that empowerment can affect things, because many of the APIs within AWS services are different. You have to learn different concepts to use a different service from another AWS service, because each team had a very high level of empowerment, and they got things done, and they did good things. But we can see some of the fractures, and it doesn't hurt as much when you have these individual services. But when you have to have end-to-end business processes and business ecosystems, and agile business doing new and different things with their capabilities, then it can hurt more. And because there is no world where there are standalone applications anymore. And if you have these 10 different independent teams building however they want, it's sort of like having 10 teams in their own domains trying to build a skyscraper without talking to each other, and each team is empowered to design their part of the skyscraper however they want to. It's not going to work. That world doesn't exist of everything's different. But what does exist is this not all APIs are the same dynamic. And what that means is that we can give realms of empowerment. Do it however you want, because this API is contained in your own world, where you're at the edge of your business domain and have to interact with business processes and partners and such. Let's put more governance, more collaborative decisioning, really is a better way to think about it, rather than governance. We're not trying to say, you go off and do something and we'll tell you at the end whether it's good enough. No, we're trying to get all the heads together to make a good design decision up front. And that's really what modern governance should be doing. But in this case, what happens is, so you may have a product owner over a business domain like order fulfillment or account management or customer relations or something like that. And then what we do is sort of shift the empowerment model to where the product owner of that domain has now the greater power to say, here's what we will deliver out of this domain. Their empowerment, the product owner's empowerment, is not here's at the most detailed level how you will build everything. It's what's the overall capability that we're trying to deliver out of a product domain, out of a business domain, out of a business capability. And that's where the combined business digital mindset of a product owner can keep the trajectory going for development of that domain over the long haul. And they have their collaborative decision making down with the teams that are actually doing the building, and then in essence pass over some level of empowerment for now that we know what we're going to build and how it has to work. We go down underneath. So product owners are very important, and they might be what I call external product owners, and which are here's a set of APIs that will deliver as a product, maybe even charge for externally, and that is a traditional customer focused product management role, very much like the product manager for toothpaste or something. We got to know what our audience needs and how they're going to use it. But then we have internal product owners that are more focused on the raw business capabilities that are going to be pulled together for different external relationships. So both of those kinds of product owners have to work together. But so empowerment shifts based on how we approach digital transformation and what layer of the architecture, and again, the types of APIs according to adaptive governance.
Yeah, and thinking about the team structure, yeah, we see different companies organizing API teams differently. There is a secret, or it's not a secret, but there is a team structure that make governance more simpler.
Yeah, it's and it's not just APIs. There's a broader trend, and sometimes it will be referred to as a shift from project-oriented development to product-oriented
Mhm.
development, which just on itself, those terms make it very vague. Well, what is that product? Uh, but but look, a modern business is a complex beast with I say 1,000, it's really much more than 1,000 moving parts. But there's all this complexity that's required to make a modern business or to make a skyscraper, to use my example from a moment ago. And you can't make all that complexity go away. I mean, sometimes you look at it and you find out that, well, there are some simple things that we have made more complex, and so simplify those by fixing your mistakes. But where there's real world complexity, you can't make it go away, but what you can do is contain it. And that's what basically simplifies the complexity, is having the the design smarts, the tooling, the processes to contain the complexity inside of products or domains. So domain-centric design is a very important concept. Business capability. So as I was talking about, product owners internally maybe owning a business capability area, then that basically becomes the product, and teams get organized around a business capability domain. And there might be some of those that are front end developers or even business people that are part of the team who know what is needed for the given business process or customer area, or whatever it may be. So we have folks doing user experience design, process design, solution design, and API design within a domain. Within a domain, the APIs that you need to be cohesive and together deliver the capabilities that are needed for the domain in a cohesive, coordinated way. And that's what we start designing. In other words, what we're doing is designing the edge of the domain for APIs, and that becomes the boundary, to use the domain driven design term, the bounded context within which we contain and the complexity of that domain, so that it's not exposed and to the rest of the world. Each domain, now that we're dealing with larger components to make a modular composable business from these business domains, and that becomes a simpler task because we're dealing with major domains versus all of the internal parts within each of those domains. So we're bounding, simplifying complexity by organizing the teams around domains and making the domain the product. And then there may be other teams that are doing cross-domain functions, like a platform, like an API platform or a microservice platform and architecture, and they're providing resources that are used by the other domains. So again, they're containing the complexity of all the details of a platform within their world of designing and providing a platform that then is used by the individual business domains. So we're simplifying the complexity by containing and and uh, and structuring it so that we can break down the business problem, if you will, in ways that simplify the overall interaction, uh, without trying to oversimplify the organization itself. And all of that just means that adaptive governance is that much more important, because each domain is going to have its own specific dynamics and business characteristics that are going to drive different needs for governance.
Yes, got it. But thinking about automation or this process from governance that you can use in different ways in different contexts. This is the purpose, by the way. Um, can this or part of this process can be automated? And if yes, which ones?
Yeah, well, there are a variety of tools out there, whether it's security scanning tools or workflow or AI based analysis of code, and tools that scan for secure coding, tools that scan for container uh, provenance, as they call it. In other words, you have a container image. Where did all the piece parts in that image come from, and do we trust all of them? You can scan for API design against an open API spec, and how have we fulfilled things and done things there. At the time. So a lot of these things can be just worked into a delivery pipeline with scans that look at different assets. And but is it a good order submission API? That's something that a human has to look at and understand. Is this really doing business the way that we want to? That there are no scanning tools for, and that becomes a very important aspect. That's where we started. Why is API governance important? Because your business APIs are your business. So my rule of thumb in there basically is to automate what can be reliably automated. So don't just automate whatever. Make sure that you understand and know that it's going to be a reliable automation, that the result is going to give you the compliance levels that are needed. But don't be afraid to put in hard stop manual stage gates where necessary, in order to make sure that something, if it's going to go into production, that it has the level of security that it needs, that the application using an API has the level of security that it needs, because often APIs get blamed, but it's really the application that got hacked and let somebody into an API. So, and the business design of the API needs to be right. So have stage gates where necessary. In between that, you can do something like a deploy and notify model for some things, where it's like, let the asset go on into production, but make sure that the relevant stakeholders know that we've just changed or delivered something, and they can go back and look at it after the fact, and we can fix it. Sometimes the risks of that are okay because of the benefits of delivering faster. So, but the overall bias basically should be toward automating, or just don't do it unless it's really important.
Yeah, got it. Well, definitely, as a digital strategies scale and gain strength, it also can be more complex. And then the amount of APIs and microservices can also grow a lot. So my perception is tools and process that makes governance simpler and adaptive are key from the success at the end.
Most definitely.
Um, yes, we are running out the time. Randy, thanks a lot for your insights, and for you, everyone that you are watching. If you want to check more about governance, we can check just in sensedia.com resources. And Randy, please say goodbye.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Appreciate y'all joining in. And Marcilio, it's always a pleasure to chat. We'll see you.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.